So a major shockwave has just hit the atmospheric science community this week. I mean, a genuine
A
earthquake.
huge one, yeah. The White House announced plans to dismantle the National Center for Atmospheric Research.
NCAR, as most people in the field call it. This news came late Tuesday night, December 16th, 2025.
And it has sent ripples not just through Boulder, Colorado, where NCAR is based, but really across the entire global scientific community.
It's a move that many, many leading experts are calling a catastrophic step back for American science. We're talking decades of progress at risk.
It's a profound moment. So today, we're going to unpack what's happening, what NCAR actually does, and why this is so much more than just a budget cut.
Welcome to Meteorology Matters, the podcast that dives deep into the science, chaos, and stories behind the weather that shapes our world.
This show was created by meteorologist Rob Jones.
Now let's get into today's episode of Meteorology Matters.
So this all centers on a very specific directive coming from the highest levels of government.
Let's start right there. Who exactly announced the plan to break up NCAR, and more importantly, what was the official reason they gave?
The announcement came from Russell Vought. He's the director of the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB.
Okay.
And he didn't mince words. He declared the intent to functionally break up the National Center for Atmospheric Research.
And the justification?
It was explicitly political. Vought labeled NCAR as, and this is a direct quote, one of the largest sources of climate alarmism in the country.
Climate alarmism. Wow, so that phrase right there, that tells you a lot about the motivation, doesn't it?
It really does. It frames the research not as objective science, but as some kind of politically motivated advocacy.
And this fits into a broader pattern we've seen of targeting research that deals with climate change.
Exactly. But here's the interesting little caveat he offered, almost like an attempt to soften the blow.
What was that?
Vought promised that any vital activities such as weather research will be moved to another entity or location.
So they're suggesting they can perform this kind of surgical extraction, keep the good science, the daily weather forecasts, and just get rid of the bad science, the long-term climate stuff.
That's the idea they're putting forward. It sounds, maybe reasonable on the surface if you don't know the science behind it.
But is that even possible? I mean, can you actually draw a clean line between weather research and climate research?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the science.
Right.
As basically every climate and weather expert has pointed out since this announcement, there is just no clean separation.
It's the same atmosphere.
It's the same atmosphere, the same physics, the same fluid dynamics. It's just a matter of time scale.
Weather is what you're getting today, this hour. Climate is the average of that weather over, say, 30 years.
Precisely. So the tools you use to understand one, the supercomputers, the models, the observational data, are the exact same tools you need to understand the other.
So if you start taking a sledgehammer to the infrastructure that supports climate modeling,
you are, by definition, damaging the infrastructure that supports weather forecasting. You can't degrade one without degrading the other. It's that simple. The whole premise is flawed from the get-go.
and the reaction from the scientific community was immediate, right?
Right.
Especially at the annual American Geophysical Union meeting, the AGU, which was happening in New Orleans when the news broke.
Oh, the timing was just devastating. The mood there was described as profoundly somber, almost like a funeral.
I can imagine. That's the biggest gathering of Earth scientists in the world.
It is. And this wasn't just, professional concern. For many, it felt deeply personal. We heard from graduate students, early career researchers. They felt the sadness instantly.
It's their future.
It is. There was a graduate student, Mohammed Shizeb Ali, who put it perfectly. He said, atmospheric science is fundamentally built on collaboration, and NCAR is the pathway through which we collaborate.
It's the central hub.
It's the hub, the meeting place, the shared library of tools that everyone depends on. And this announcement came after a really tough year for American science in general.
Right. This wasn't an isolated event. There have been major federal funding cuts, scientists being fired or pushed into early retirement.
Thousands of them. So this felt like the culmination of a long-term erosion of the systems that let science function in this country.
And you could actually see the statistical proof of that instability right there at the conference, couldn't you?
You could. Attendance at AGU was down by a full third.
Wow.
From about 30,000 attendees normally down to 20,000. And you saw fewer recruiters from universities, from federal agencies.
That's a huge drop.
It reflects this profound uncertainty that's plaguing the entire field. I mean, if you're a graduate student, why would you commit the next 5 or 6 years of your life to a field where the primary research institution might just disappear.
It's a huge gamble. Now let's shift focus to Boulder, Colorado, the home of NCAR, because the local reaction was, well, it was furious.
And it was grounded in very practical, everyday realities. Hundreds of protesters gathered, not just for NCAR, but near the federal facilities for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, which is another agency facing huge cuts.
And this wasn't just a small group of scientists, right?
No, not at all. This was organized by community groups like Forever Indivisible Boulder. You had elected officials there, Representative Joe Neguse, Senator John Hickenlooper.
So the community sees NCAR as more than just a lab on a hill.
Absolutely. They stress that NCAR has made a huge impact on humanity since 1960, and on a more local level, it provides hundreds of really important, well-paying jobs for the Boulder economy. It's a cornerstone of the community.
And this is where the story takes a turn that is just powerfully ironic.
You couldn't write it. The protests happened just after Boulder County got absolutely hammered by a severe wind event.
We're talking winds over 100 miles per hour.
Extreme winds. So extreme that the utility company, Xcel Energy, had to preemptively cut power to tens of thousands of customers because the fire danger was off the charts.
So people are in their homes, the power is out, these incredible winds are howling.
And what are they doing? They're on their phones checking the internet for the latest NCAR wind speed readings.
No way.
Yes. They were relying on data from the very institution being threatened in the middle of a crisis to know how dangerous it was outside.
That perfectly illustrates the disconnect, doesn't it?
It's the ultimate example. One of the protesters pointed it out, saying that this crucial local life-saving data source would just go away if NCAR is disestablished.
So on one hand, you have this political argument about alarmism, and on the other, you have people literally using NCAR's data to protect their homes and their families in real time.
It's a stark contrast. It really brings the stakes of this whole debate down to a very real, very personal level.
To really understand what's at stake, we need to dig into what NCAR actually is. Because it's not just another government lab, is it? It has a really unique structure.
It's completely unique, and it was set up that way for a very specific reason back in 1960. The idea was to create a centralized resource to tackle atmospheric problems that were just too big, too complex for any single university to handle on its own.
So how does that work? Who actually runs it?
It's operated by a nonprofit consortium called the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research, or UTR.
Okay.
Think of UTR as a kind of a managing partner. It's made up of 129 North American universities. So it's the academic community itself that stewards NCAR, ensuring its resources are available to researchers and students all across the continent.
And the funding comes primarily from the federal government.
Its core funding does, yes. About half its budget, roughly $123 million for fiscal year 2025, comes from the National Science Foundation, the NSF.
But it gets other grants too, right?
It does. It pulls in grants for specific projects from places like NASA, even the Pentagon, for mission-critical work. So it has a diverse portfolio, but that NSF money is its lifeblood.
And it's a huge operation. 830 staff, most of them in Boulder.
It is. And you can't talk about NCAR without mentioning the building itself. The Mesa Laboratory.
It's an architectural icon.
It really is. Designed by the world-renowned architect IMP.
The same architect who did the Louvre Pyramid.
The very same.
Huh.
And he designed the lab to echo the Flatirons, those beautiful sloped rock formations right behind it. It's made of this pink-hued concrete that blends right into the landscape. It's a statement piece.
What kind of statement?
That fundamental science is important, that it deserves a home that is as foundational and as beautiful as the work being done inside it. It's a landmark.
And that physical presence really underscores its role, which scientists describe as the global mothership.
That's a term you hear a lot, global mothership, an international treasure. Because that centralization is the key to its success. The whole idea was to have a coordinated, interdisciplinary approach that you just couldn't get in a single university department.
That's about pooling resources.
Exactly. It's so much more efficient. If you have one massive world-class tool that 129 universities can share, the science that comes out of it is exponentially better than if you had 129 separate, smaller, less powerful tools.
Okay, so let's get specific. What are the key resources NCAR provides that a university, even a huge one, just can't replicate? Let's start with the big one. supercomputing.
Right. So NCAR operates one of the world's most powerful supercomputing centers, and it's specifically designed for Earth system modeling.
We're talking about running models that simulate the entire planet's atmosphere.
The entire planet, or, incredibly high-resolution models of a single hurricane, or tracking air pollution from wildfires as it moves across continents. These are calculations that are just mind-bogglingly complex.
And why can't a university just, buy its own supercomputer?
It's the scale. I mean, a university might have a computer cluster for a department, but the systems at NCAR are on another planet. The hardware costs tens, even hundreds of millions of dollars.
And that's just to buy it.
That's just to buy it. Then you have the building to house it, the massive cooling systems to keep it from melting, and a whole team of specialized engineers and technicians to keep it running 24/7.
So when scientists say losing this would cause severe damage to the field,
They mean that for thousands of researchers around the world, their work would just stop.
Yeah.
Full stop. It wouldn't happen. It's the difference between having a family car and having access to a Formula One racetrack with a full pit crew. They're not comparable.
that's a great analogy.
Right.
So that's the first key resource. What's the second?
The second is its collection of specialized observational resources. The crown jewels of this are the research aircraft.
Like the C-130s.
Exactly. These are heavily modified military transport planes that are basically flying laboratories. They are packed floor to ceiling with custom radars, sensors, and all kinds of data collection instruments.
And any researcher from a member university can propose a project to use one of these planes.
That's the beauty of it. A professor from Penn State or the University of Oklahoma can write a grant to fly into the heart of a hurricane or to study cloud formation over the Arctic.
And NCAR provides the plane, the pilots, the whole support crew.
The whole 9 yards. A professor at Penn State, Ken Davis, said that trying to do that kind of airborne research on your own as university would be totally impossible.
You'd have to buy a C-130 for starters.
And maintain it, and hire specialized pilots who can fly in extreme weather and engineers who can keep these incredibly complex instruments working. NCAR centralizes all that cost and logistical headache so the scientists can just focus on the science.
So NCAR is essentially a massive force multiplier for the entire scientific community.
That's the perfect way to describe it.
Okay, so let's go back to that charge of alarmism.
Yeah.
How does the leadership at NCAR and UCR respond to the accusation that their work is political?
The president of UCR, Antonio Busalaki Jr., has been very clear and very direct about this. He says NCAR produces apolitical science, period.
Their job isn't advocacy.
Their job is not advocacy. He says the scientists are very careful not to cross over that line. Their mandate is to collect the data, run the models, and report what the science says. That's it.
It's up to others to decide what to do with that information.
Exactly. It's the role of policymakers, of the public, to interpret the significance of the science. The scientists just provide the objective facts about how our planet works.
And that idea seems to be baked into the institution's DNA, right down to its name.
It really is. The founders, back in 1960, showed incredible foresight. They deliberately named it the National Center for Atmospheric Research, not just weather research.
Why was that distinction so important?
Because they knew from the very beginning that climate, the long-term study of the whole system, was going to be a crucial part of their mission. They defined their scope as extending from the ocean floor to the sun's core.
A full spectrum approach.
A full-spectrum, holistic understanding. They knew you couldn't get better at short-term weather forecasts without understanding the long-term dynamics of the entire planet. So attacking the institution now is really an attack on that foundational 60-year-old mission.
So we've talked about the theoretical damage, the loss of infrastructure. But let's ground this in really practical outcomes. What has NCAR actually done for people's safety over the years?
The list of tangible, life-saving contributions is just extraordinary, and these are technologies that are in use every single day all around the world.
Let's start with aviation. This is a big one.
A huge one. Back in the 1980s, NCAR's research was absolutely essential in developing the technology to detect and warn against a phenomenon called wind shear.
And its extreme form, the microburst.
Right. A microburst is this intense, localized column of sinking air, usually near a thunderstorm. If a plane hits one during takeoff or landing, it can cause a sudden, catastrophic loss of lift.
And this was the cause of several major fatal crashes in the 70s and 80s, wasn't it?
It was a huge problem. So NCAR scientists pioneered the development of specialized Doppler radar systems, both on the ground at airports and on the planes themselves.
And these systems can actually see the wind shear before the plane gets there.
They can. They detect those subtle shifts in air movement that signal a microburst is forming. And NCAR didn't just build the hardware, they developed the algorithms and the warning protocols that get that information to air traffic controllers and pilots in real time.
So what was the result of putting these systems in airports all over the world?
The result is staggering. The UCR president, Antonio Busalaki, said that since these systems became mandatory in the 1990s, there has been zero loss of life from these weather events.
Wait, say that again, zero?
Zero. An entire category of weather-related aviation disasters has been effectively eliminated because of this research. It has saved, in his words, countless lives worldwide.
That alone feels like it justifies the entire existence of the center. Just that one achievement.
It's a monumental contribution to public safety. And then you move on to other extreme weather, like hurricanes.
What was NCAR's big breakthrough there?
The dropsonde. This is a brilliant piece of technology. It's a small, tube-shaped instrument that they release for research aircraft, like the hurricane hunters, flying high above the storm.
And it just falls through the hurricane.
It parachutes down right through the eye wall in the most intense parts of the storm. And as it falls, it's constantly measuring and transmitting data temperature, pressure, humidity, wind speed, wind direction.
So you're getting a real-time vertical slice of the inside of the storm.
Exactly. Something you can't get from a satellite. This technology, and I quote, revolutionized the understanding of tropical cyclone structure.
And better understanding leads to better forecasts.
Much better forecasts. That data feeds directly into the prediction models and significantly improves the track and, especially, the intensity forecasts. The impact is so fundamental that this technology has been cited in over 400 scientific papers in the last 25 years.
So we have life-saving hardware for aviation and hurricanes. What about the software, the models that power our daily forecasts?
NCAR is the backbone for that, too. They developed and they continue to maintain the weather research and forecasting model, which is known as WRF.
WRF model.
Right. WRF is basically the foundational software used by forecasters all over the world. Your local TV meteorologist, national weather agencies, private companies. A huge number of them are using WRF to predict everything from thunderstorms to major winter storms.
So if NCAR goes away, who maintains that code? Who keeps it updated?
That is the multi-million-dollar question. It's an incredibly complex piece of software used by thousands of people. Its stability and continued improvement would be immediately at risk.
And then there's the climate modeling side.
Which brings us to the Community Earth System Model, or CESM. This is NCAR's masterpiece.
What makes it so special?
It was the first fully coupled global climate model that was designed from the ground up to be open and accessible for the entire university research community. It's the gold standard.
Can you give us a real-world example of how it's used to, protect people?
A perfect example is the research that came after the February 2021 cold snap in Texas.
The one that crippled the power grid.
Exactly. Hundreds of fatalities, billions in damage. Researchers used CESM to run these incredibly complex experiments to understand what large-scale atmospheric patterns lead to those kinds of extreme cold outbreaks.
So they're trying to find long-range signals to better predict them in the future.
Right. And that kind of research, which is vital for protecting our national energy grid, is just flat out impossible for a single university to do. You need the supercomputing power and the sophisticated model framework that NCAR provides through CESM.
So the same institution is helping with aviation safety, hurricane forecasts, and national grid security.
And wildfire behavior, and air pollution modeling, and even providing real-time operational forecasts for the military at critical sites in Alaska. It's not just abstract research, it's deeply integrated into our national safety and security.
And it's so important to understand that this threat to NCAR isn't happening in a vacuum. It's part of a much bigger picture, isn't it?
It is. Leaders in the scientific community are calling this a fundamental disruption of the systems that allow science in this country to function. It's systemic.
So we're seeing a broader erosion of the entire scientific enterprise.
That's right. It's not just the NCAR announcement. The administration has been accused of removing critical climate data from government websites, of freezing or canceling grants that were already approved, of weakening environmental regulations that were based on science.
It creates this atmosphere of instability.
It does. And if you lose a place like NCAR, the risk isn't just that your forecast is a little less accurate tomorrow. The real danger is a slow, steady decline in our ability to ever get better.
We stop making progress.
We stop making progress. And as experts have warned, being More in the dark about what is coming puts lives and property at risk. It's a slow-motion crisis. And to see how deep it runs, you just have to look at what's happening in our oceans.
You're talking about the Ocean Observatories Initiative, the OOI?
I am. This is another massive, critical piece of scientific infrastructure that's now on the ropes.
What is it exactly?
It's a huge network of buoys, moorings, and thousands of instruments at 4 key locations in the oceans around the U.S.
And it costs a fortune to build.
It did. The NSF spent $386 million to build it starting in 2009. The whole point was to have this continuous 25-year-long stream of data on the health of our oceans.
Like taking the ocean's vital signs.
Perfect analogy. It's monitoring long-term shifts in ocean circulation that drive our climate, but also short-term events like marine heat waves that can devastate commercial fishing.
And there's a geological aspect too, isn't there?
A huge one. One of the observatories is off the coast of Oregon, and it's basically sitting on top of an underwater volcano that's overdue for a major eruption. It's also monitoring the Cascadia subduction zone. This is essential, life-saving geological research.
So this massive, nearly $500 million system is in place, but it needs to be maintained.
And that's the crisis. It needs about $40 million a year to maintain its 900 instruments, and the administration has slashed that funding.
What's happening to the instruments now?
The project leaders are saying things are starting to break. They've had to reduce how often some instruments take samples just to save money, and they estimate they only have about 12 more months of operation before the whole thing goes dark.
To spend all that money to build it and then just let it fall apart. It's just staggering.
It really is. And the same thing is happening at NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
What are the cuts looking like there?
The White House has proposed cutting NOAA's budget by 27%. And even more alarmingly, they want to completely eliminate the Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, or OAR.
Which is what?
OAR is the research heart of NOAA. It's the part of the agency that develops new forecast models and new technologies. It's the engine of progress. And we're already seeing layoffs at NOAA offices, including in Boulder.
And all of these cuts, they don't just affect the federal agencies, they send shockwaves through academia.
This is maybe the most damaging long-term effect. Universities depend on those federal grants to run their labs and, critically, to pay their graduate students.
The next generation of scientists.
Exactly. And when that funding becomes uncertain, the pipeline starts to break down. We saw a really stark example at the University of Rhode Island's Graduate School of Oceanography.
What happened there?
They had to cut their incoming class of graduate students by more than half, from 22 students down to 10. And the school said it was a direct result of the uncertainty around federal funding for ocean science.
That's devastating for the future of the field.
It is, and we're even seeing a shift in the kind of research that gets proposed.
How so?
Some universities are moving away from research on how to slow climate change, what's called mitigation, and focusing instead on how to limit its effects, which is called adaptation.
Why the shift?
The research suggests it's a pragmatic political choice. There's a bipartisan appetite for disaster preparedness. So if you can't get funding to study how to stop the problem, maybe you can get funding to study how to survive it.
But for the scientists who have spent their careers building these incredible long-term projects like the OOI or NCAR's models, their focus is much more immediate, isn't it?
It is. Their goal right now is simply, how can we save what we built?
And that brings us to the political fight. We have to be clear here. We're impartially reporting on what officials in Colorado are alleging, but the timing of these cuts is suspicious.
It is. Multiple officials and reports are suggesting a direct link between the attack on NCAR and other Colorado funding and a very public feud between the administration and Colorado's Governor Jared Polis.
And this feud centers on the case of a former county clerk.
That's right. A woman named Tina Peters, a former Mesa County clerk who was convicted in state court on felony charges related to illegally accessing voting machines.
Okay.
She's serving a state prison sentence. President Trump issued a symbolic pardon for her, but because it's a state crime, not a federal one, Colorado officials have refused to release her.
And the allegation is that cutting funding for NCAR is direct retaliation for that refusal.
That is the direct allegation from multiple Colorado officials. They've called it blatantly retaliatory, and the timing is key. The NCAR announcement happened at the exact same time that $109 million in other federal grants for Colorado were also canceled.
And these weren't climate-related grants.
Not at all. This is what makes it look so targeted. The cuts included a $66 million grant for a critical rail safety project. another grant to help Fort Collins electrify its vehicle fleet, and money for Colorado State University Pueblo to study powering trains with hydrogen.
These are infrastructure, safety, and economic development projects.
Exactly. So Governor Polis came out very forcefully saying that public safety is at risk and science is being attacked, and he vowed a major fight.
And that fight is already happening on Capitol Hill. What are Colorado's senators doing?
Senators Michael Bennet and John Hickenlooper are basically using legislative tactics to slow things down. They're holding up a major government spending bill, trying to slow the process for as long as we can.
And their goal is to protect NCAR's funding.
Specifically, it's core funding from the National Science Foundation. Senator Hickenlooper has said he's confident he can get bipartisan support from Republicans to keep that funding in place because they recognize NCAR's national importance.
And at the same time, House Democrats are exploring legal challenges.
That's right, led by Representative Neguse from Boulder. It's a full court press because the community understands what's at stake. As the experts have said, losing NCAR would be a major setback and would have impact for decades to come.
So let's just summarize that cost one more time. If this dismantling happens, what do we lose?
You lose that incredible collaborative infrastructure that connects 129 universities. You lose access to the supercomputers that power thousands of research projects.
Yeah.
You lose the specialized research aircraft that make cutting-edge field science possible.
And all of that translates into a slow but steady decay in our ability to improve forecasts.
For everything, wildfires, severe weather, aviation safety, long-term risks, you're essentially taking a sledgehammer to the keystone, holding up our scientific understanding of the planet.
America loses its competitive edge, and our ability to prepare for the future is fundamentally crippled.
That's the bottom line.
We've seen that in the face of these cuts, universities are shifting their research focus from researching how to slow climate change mitigation to studying how to limit its effects adaptation. If research on future risks is cut or compromised, how prepared can any community truly be for the extreme weather events that NCAR currently helps us predict? That's a question that should keep all of us thinking about the fundamental, life-saving value of our scientific infrastructure.
You've been listening to Meteorology Matters, created by meteorologist Rob Jones.
We really want to know what you think about the NCAR situation. Don't stay quiet, jump on our socials and let us know what you think.
Like it, share it, drop a comment, or send us a message directly.
You can follow meteorologist Rob Jones on Instagram, meteorologist, on TikTok, TV meteorologist, and on YouTube, follow Rob Jones Hurricane, where you can also find the Meteorology Matters podcast playlist.
Thanks for listening, and remember, the weather always matters.